budget hearing to order. So please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please be seated. We actually have two separate hearings tonight, or meetings tonight. This first one is on the public, it's the public budget hearing. And so for the roll call, please note that members DeMoss, Tucker, and Kerr are present, and members Jacobs and Durnall are not present tonight. Both of them send their apologies for not being able to be here this evening. They each had something else going on. I'm not sure if I should say what, but it was very important. So I just want to know they would love to be here if they could. For the budget hearing, we need to go over our budget, the capital projects plan, and the bus replacement plan. And each of those will have a public comment section. These public comments should be tailored just to the budget. We will, when we have our regular meeting right after this, we will have visitor comments at that time. So the public comments for this would be on the budget items. So I'll ask Mr. Irwin to present on the 2022 proposed budget.
All right, the Form 3 was submitted to Gateway on August 26th. And that's just the notice to the public of the hearing. And the capital projects plan and bus replacement plan were also uploaded to Gateway on the same day. They were posted to our website as well. I included some information on the chart to you in the board memos so that you could see that for tonight. It's the same thing that I presented to you this past month when we talked about permission to advertise, and it's just a comparison of the 2021 budget to the 2022 budget. Just real quick, just on that, we advertised our levy for max operating balance and debt service and max levy for operations, which is very typical and no different than last year. Again, kind of the high level notes of some of the changes in the budget as far as what factored into the numbers was just based on the fiscal year 2022 funding formula for the education fund, which we saw some of our bigger increases in education funding from the state legislature that we've seen in quite some time. And then we had some rebound in student numbers, which contributed to an increase in our 2022 budget estimate for the education fund. The operations fund grew by about the max levy growth quotient, which is 4.3% this past year. So our max levy grew by that 4.3%. And then with the debt service fund, again, the AV drives the tax rate with that, and we advertise high to make sure that when we hit our adjustments with our 1782 notice comes in, that we can bring that down and make sure we hit that total tax rate that we want to target. With that, do you want to do the open comment, or do you want me to roll through all three?
We'll do an open comment for each as it's presented on the agenda. Are there any who would wish to comment on the 2022 proposed budget? Seeing none, please continue, Mr. Irwin.
The capital projects plan, again, is posted on Gateway and our school website. This plan incorporates items of possible need of the corporation that exceed $10,000. You'll see a lot of things on there that are pretty typical as far as taking care of some of the general maintenance needs, whether it's painting, carpet, things of that nature, lawn care equipment, different things that as far as the operational needs of the school district. And again, that's just an expected list. It's not an exhaustive list. It's just things that we can foresee at this time that we know are most likely going to come up and things that we're going to need to take care of.
Are there any of the public who would wish to comment on the capital projects plan for 2022? Seeing none, please continue, Mr. Irwin.
All right, and then the bus replacement plan, again, it shows all of the list of our current fleet, and then the replacement cycle that we're looking at, again, is replacing a couple buses every single year. We still have 2 years worth of leases payments to pay on some buses that were purchased back in 2019. And then after those 2 years, then they'll be fully owned by the school corporation. Right now, we do have we have 31 routes, total routes. 13 of those routes are contract routes right now. I did add a note to the bus replacement plan that once the expiration of this contract goes with the contract bus route owners, that there's the possibility exists that we may bring back some of those 13 routes back into the corporation, which could cause the need for us to buy additional buses aside from the normal replacement that we have on the plan.
Okay. Thank you. Any public comments on the 2022 bus replacement plan? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Irwin. And that will conclude the public budget hearing. And so we will adjourn that hearing. And we will call to order the regular school board meeting for September of 2021. Again, for roll call, Mr. Durnall and Ms. Jacobs are not present today, but DeMoss, Tucker, and Kerr are, which is a quorum, so we can continue. Now we'll have visitor comments. Mr. Irwin?
Our first speaker tonight is Marcy Edwards. I'll go ahead and put the timer up just so we're aware of the time.
Okay, thank you.
Did we decide on a time?
Said it'd be 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just let me know when you're ready.
It was 5. I'm just wondering why the 3, because one of the last meetings, when there was very few speakers, it got to 5, so is there a reason for the change tonight?
Part of it is the length of the agenda, and we also have a presentation from Edgewood Intermediate School tonight.
Interesting, okay. So I brought with me an article. What I'm going to be talking about tonight is the protocols that we are following or lack of following here at the schools for close contact quarantining of the children. So last week there was an article in the Herald Times newspaper talking about the Edgewood football team titled "Crazy Week Still Led to Game for Edgewood." So I'm going to read a little bit of it just to remind everybody. Edgewood was pulled through the emotional ringer Thursday and Friday and then dragged through the Owen Valley ringer to top it off. But the fact the Mustangs even got to play for the Black and Blue Trophy was a victory in itself. Word came down late Thursday afternoon that there was a positive COVID case with a football player and the entire team was going to be quarantined due to contact tracing. The team was called to the auditorium by the principal to give them the bad news and they were sent home. What the article doesn't say, and I do know, is that when the principal called them into the auditorium, he then separated them. He said, if you're vaccinated, you go to this side of the room. You're unvaccinated, you go to this side of the room. And then they were sent home based on that. So they were identified right there in front of each other on their medical status, which I don't find okay. It was quite the mess for me to kind of get us out of, said Edgewood coach Caleb True, who would channel his best inner Perry Mason to save his team from an unfair verdict and his students from more days in remote learning. Not only was Friday Owen Valley game called off, but it would have kept the Mustangs out of action until September 18th. So the Week 5 contest was set. South Putnam was off too. We couldn't afford for that to happen, True said. So I'm up here. What happened is True was able to go back to the staff and provide a detailed practice schedule, which then unquarantined the football team because he had detailed of where those players were. So that was last Thursday. Friday the game got put back on. They went to OV, they played. Come Saturday, what happened is my daughter's soccer team, the Edgewood High School soccer team, was identified as having a positive case. And on Monday, I got a phone call, or actually a text message from my daughter, first saying that be prepared because I might be getting sent home due to a positive case. So hours later, I get a phone call, and I went and met with Dr. Sanders because I felt like, what are we doing? How was she identified as being in close contact? And I have not yet to receive a good answer on that. There's not a protocol. They did not ask the coach for a game schedule. They couldn't tell me, nor the principal, Dr. Sanders, we had a conversation, and I never got a good answer. They don't know what positions my daughter and this person was playing because they didn't ask. Okay, so why are we allowing for this football team, the special treatment, to come back with this evidence of where people are, but we're not allowing that same thing for the girls' soccer team? There's a double standard. It's not okay. We need to stop the quarantining of close contacts because these kids are not sick and they're getting sent home for 10 days, totally unnecessary. I've sent an email to you guys.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Not enough. Should have been 5 minutes. Thank you.
Next speaker is Sammy Strunk. Let me know when you're ready. I'll start you up.
Okay, yep, I'm ready. So I'm going to address the same thing tonight that she did, the contact tracing. If we're going to mandate the masks, then we really need to drop the contact tracing. We are sending perfectly healthy kids home for 10 days for e-learning, which at my house really should be named no learning. I received a call last Tuesday that my son cannot attend in-person classes until Monday the 27th because he was a close contact. But if he's vaccinated, he doesn't have to quarantine. You all read the same articles that I read. You watch the same news stories that I do. Vaccinated people get COVID just as unvaccinated. Vaccinated can spread the virus just as unvaccinated. He is not sick and has no symptoms, yet he's home because it's my family's personal choice for many different reasons to choose to not be vaccinated. My son is typically an AB student. I have watched his grades fall in this short amount of time and watched his anxieties of failing at school rise. There are kids who have missed more school than they've attended because of contact tracing. This isn't how it should be. The contact tracing needs to stop. Along with no more contact tracing, this ridiculous idea to separate, or if you're looking for a better term, segregate a student from their peers at lunch for 4 days upon arriving back from quarantine needs to be thrown out the window. Although this isn't a black or white issue here, this is segregation no matter how you look at it. Vaccinated can carry about like normal, but the unvaccinated cannot. I always teach my children that no matter who you are, you're going to have a boss somewhere and that you are to respect authority. But I will admit, I told my son that he is not to sit separately at lunch. Now it's been added to the announcements that if they don't check in and eat lunch in the gym, then they get detention. This isn't right on so many levels. This is not right. I'm sorry, but I refuse to have my child be put into another area to eat his food who has already sat at home for 10 days asymptomatic. While the vaccinated that were a close contact can come to school no problem, the unvaccinated cannot. What's next? Vaccinated on one side of the room and unvaccinated on the other? Vaccinated in one line in the cafeteria, unvaccinated in another? Different water fountains, different restrooms? This may sound absurd, but it could be a reality if we don't put a stop to it. So my question is this: where are you all going to draw the line? Because a line needs to be drawn, and it needs to be drawn sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. This would include approval of minutes from the August 16th, 2021 regular board meeting and the financial report for August of 21. And Mr. DeMoss, could you read the claims, please?
I will. Payroll for August 5th, $2,782.50, mini payroll. Gross wages for August 6th, $546,528.99. Mini payroll for August 12th, $112. Mini payroll for August 20th, $13,123. Gross wages August 20th, $594,684.99. Total $1,157,231.48. Vouchers, claims prepaid from 8/1 to 8/31, $992,092.56. Regular claim for regular vouchers for September 20th, $646,843.75. And the Forest Hills vouchers dated tomorrow, $23,683.62 for a total vouchers of $1,662,619.93. Total vouchers and payroll, $2,819,851.41.
Thank you. We also have one donation this month, $600 from the Ellisville Christian Church, and it could be used for COVID-related expenses or the food truck, I believe. Personnel, we have resignation, retirements, non-renewals, leaves, and terminations, 1 through 8, and appointments and transfers, 1 through
84.
84. Thank you. Many of those are related to normal, regular appointments for extracurriculars. Okay, so do we have a motion?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Now we come to the Mustang moment with Edgewood Intermediate School. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, you know, I've been looking forward to this all day. I can't wait to hear from these fourth graders, and Mrs. Baird is going to come and introduce everybody.
Okay, good evening. We are excited. Are we your first Mustang moment this year?
No, we had junior high last month.
Okay. Well, that's okay. We're just saving the best for next, right?
Right.
Okay, so I have some awesome fourth graders here. I'm not going to upstage them by any means. They have a lot to share with you guys. Just so you're aware, I made a mistake and did not give Dr. Sanders a heads up that these guys had created a PowerPoint presentation for you. So we did share it. So if you have your email open, you have access to it so you can follow along with them. I'm going to go ahead and introduce to you Mrs. Jalal Azizi. Sarah has been with us. This is her 3rd year in 4th grade. I wish I could say that we stole her away from another amazing school out there, but we actually stole her away from Target. She graduated and had been working at Target for years as she put herself through college, and we were super fortunate to lure her over our way, and she has been a phenomenal teacher for us. She is in a different type of classroom this year. Mr. Dimash, you'll identify with this type of classroom. She has a group of high ability students in her room, as well as a mixture of high achieving and hardworking kiddos. So I'm going to let her introduce these guys and share with you what they've been working on in their latest PBL project.
Hello, I'm Sarah Jalal Azizi. I'm a 4th grade teacher at EIS, and my class started a class project. It just came about with a discussion over what we did over Labor Day weekend, and I will let them tell you more about it. But let's go ahead and get started with Elena. Micah, do you want to come help us here? Okay. Okay, is that good?
Yeah.
All right, introduce yourself first.
Hi, my name is Elena, and we're going to be telling you how we can help the Afghan refugees. We're making a fundraiser.
Hi, my name is Jude McCormack. How our class project came to be is just the people of Afghanistan have forged to leave their home, as you know. You probably saw them in news or newspapers. Some of them have escaped their country after getting invaded. We started this fundraiser after Labor Day, like she said. We were sharing what we did over the weekend. when Mrs. Jalazizi told us how she's been a volunteer translating at Camp Atterbury to help the Afghan refugees. Our class we had to come up with something about it. Here are some of the ideas we came up with.
We are gonna be presenting our donation drive to the classes at EIS and asking them to help us collect items and money. Some of the items are listed in the following slides. We are going to have collection sites around the school and give envelopes to classes to collect money. We are also going to spread the news about our fundraiser by passing out flyers to different classes around the school, as well as posting flyers throughout the building. Hi, my name is Maggie, and I'm going to share a few stuff that you can donate for the donation drive. The first one is clothes for adults of all sizes, masks for adults, body wash, shampoo, conditioner, craft kits for kids, deodorant for kids, night light for kids, and a few for babies and toddlers, shoes, diapers, baby powder, blankets, bottles, and car seats. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Isabel, and I will be telling about how we can help. Students would bring donations to any of the collection sites around the school. Please bring donations listed on the previous slides and new items only, please. Monetary donations can be sent through Venmo or turned into classroom teachers. All those donations will go directly towards purchasing the supplies. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew, and I would just like to say thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them now, or feel free to email Mrs. Jalazizi.
Any questions?
One of them may have to help me figure out how to use Venmo.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. We love hearing from you guys, and I really think your professionalism and the way you present yourselves is amazing. And we're so glad to have you here at Edgewood. And thank you for coming tonight.
And you know, Mr. Kerr, part of our mission and vision for RBB is caring. And when we started our Ready Schools planning year, we surveyed parents, students, interviewed everybody. The one word that stood out more than anything else was caring. And if this isn't a perfect example of that, I don't know what is. And I just like to congratulate these students and our awesome teachers for not only having a caring attitude, but providing our students with a real life learning experience. So good job to and you have to congratulate the parents too, right? Because they had a lot to do with that. And so it's just a good thing to have tonight, and I'm excited that they came and shared their story with us.
I have a quick question for Miss Jalal?
Yeah, Jalal is easy.
Jalal, that's close. I'm just curious, and I know it's not part of the presentation, but
Yeah.
you're a current interpreter for the children there?
So I volunteer there on the weekends. I started over Labor Day weekend. I just wanted to find some way to help because I'm personally connected to my family's Afghan American. So I felt like I needed to do something. So I reached out to some organizations and found out that I could go and volunteer and translate since most of them can't speak any English. So I do that. And then recently, they asked me to start, they found out I was a teacher and they asked me to start like a basic English class for the kids there. So yesterday I went and did that for the first time. I taught 2 small groups. It was kind of large in terms of our schools, but I taught like a little over 50 kids, just like basic alphabet and learning to write our letters and stuff. And so yeah, I'm gonna be doing that like every Saturday or Sunday until they're there.
All right, well, thank you for volunteering. Thanks for
Yeah.
bringing it to the classroom for the kids.
Yeah, it kind of started just over like what did we do over Labor Day weekend, and I shared with them that I did that, and they just their gears started turning, and they said, you know, we need to do something. We have to help those kids. They have nothing. Like they weren't able to bring any of their stuff from home, and they were all so eager to like bring in their own personal clothes and toys to help these kids. It was amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, now we'll move on to the business manager's report. Mr. Irwin?
Let's go ahead. All right, you guys should have a copy of the cash flows there that were on the desk. We'll start in the education fund. Revenues came in as expected. We're kind of narrowing in there on the DPI 54 form that we get each month that just labels out the funding that we should receive from the state as far as tuition support goes. That stayed pretty accurate, and I've reflected an increase in November and December once we have reconciled from our September count, because our count is higher than the estimate that they're using based on our funding right now. So I've updated that to show an increase during those 2 months. And so we still have to wait to see where academic honors, special ed grant, CTE, all those things come back to see what the actual total effect is going to be in those 2 months. But again, we using kind of the best information that we have at this time to update that to see what we think it's going to be during those 2 months. Expense-wise, again, very accurate, and end of year, it continues to stay right there in that range that we expect it to be. We're not making huge cash balance gains. We didn't expect to, and that's okay. We're moving along nicely through our budget as far as appropriations go, and we should finish out the year nicely. Debt service fund, there's nothing to report in this fund. There was no receipts or expenditures, which again is planned. We knew that was going to be that way. And then the operations fund, we went ahead and continued to move along transfers as we've been doing here since July. Again, revenue has continued to stay steady as we expect it to be, since most of it comes from property tax collection, which isn't only during 2 months of the year. The rest of it is typically just the transfer amount and some of the miscellaneous fees that are collected throughout the year. Expenses, again, were very accurate. We kind of expected where we were going to end up. And again, end of the year numbers, again, stayed really stable. We expect to be right around that number where we ended last year, if not maybe a little bit below, which again, that's okay. That's the acceptable range of where we feel comfortable ending with end of year cash balances in the operations fund. So all in all, everything's continuing to progress nicely, and with that, I'll take any questions.
How do we end up on count day last Friday?
We project to be somewhere around 2645. Again, we're in the cleanup phase, so you don't get an exact number right away on count day. So once count day rolls around, they spend the next 2 weeks doing what they call the cleanup phase. And so the state starts to look at our data and everything that pulled through data exchange, and as far as the application center as well. And then they go through each one of our students to make sure everything's matching up, make sure there's not a conflict with another school who might still have them on their education roll, and so they got to make sure there's not a conflict of who's trying to claim a kid on their SDN, and so they'll clean that up. But we expect to be somewhere around that 2640 number.
Do you think is that an increase from last year?
We ended last year in our February count. We were at like 2560. somewhere around 2560, and we started last year around 2606. So it's a small increase from where we started last year. 2 years ago, prior to COVID, we were at 2663 in the fall. So we're getting back closer to that number to where we were prior to COVID starting, which is a good thing. And we expect that to hopefully continue to progress along and take small increases over the years with everything that's going on in the community.
Okay, and does that, the 2645 include the virtual students?
It does.
Okay,
It does.
which, around 40?
Around 40, 43 kids.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Urban. Now we have consideration to dispose of surplus technology equipment. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, so the technology department has a surplus of computers, projectors, and other inoperable items. The cost of organizing and transporting these items to sell would exceed the actual value of the items, so we are asking the board to declare them as surplus. Those items would be 6 monitors that no longer work, 4 computer workstations that also do not work, 12 keyboards, 2 network switches, 1 small network printer, and other various hard drives and cables. Mr. Routen is here if you have any questions, but otherwise, we'd recommend your approval.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any questions? No, we can appreciate them continually calling through and making sure that we get rid of what we need to and purchase what we need to as well. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have consideration to approve revisions to the 2021-2022 school calendar. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, so I'm asking the board to allow us to move one of our e-learning days that was October 1st to October 21st on the 2021-2022 school calendar. We will be conducting corporation-wide teacher training on professional learning communities, and the October 21st date will enable us to avoid the conflicts that we did have with the original date being right before fall break. Also, we are able to secure the same presenter by making the switch. We had this presenter who is a very experienced educator who led our leadership teams for each of our schools in a 2-day training back in August, and so he can come back and continue the same message. And so that's why it's important for us to move the date to the 21st. And also we will save some money on top of that because he will already be in Indiana for that. So that's just an added bonus. So I'd like to ask the board to approve this revision.
I move to approve the revision of the calendar.
I second.
Moved and seconded. And word will go out of this quickly for the parents
Yes,
so that
yeah.
they.
Well, it's already on the board, on the
Okay.
website. Probably shouldn't have admitted that. But we try to get ahead of it and get it on the website, and we'll send it out probably tomorrow.
Okay, wonderful.
And this is the, Thursday, 2 weeks after fall break?
Right.
Is that right? Okay.
Right. And after the grading period, end of the grading period.
May I attend on that day?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And Mr. DeMoss, that'll be in the auditorium here.
Okay, thank you.
Now we have consideration to approve the purchase of Chromebooks. Mr. Routen.
Evening. Rick Routen, Technology Director. We're presenting to you to purchase 630 Chromebooks this evening to a vendor called Paragon Micro. We are, let's see, the 630 will get us computers or Chromebooks that are up to date for testing and assessments in the lower grades. We also found that the request now coming to you late versus the one that we did a few months ago for 100. We found that some testing assessments were now going digital, and we're a little short on the machines to help us get through that digital assessments in the lower grades. When we get done, we'll have one-to-one to first grade, and then we'll have enough to carry us over into next school year with the rotation from seniors going down to sixth grade. I say that without the hesitation of, if we have a growth, we may have to come back to you for some additionals, with growth being a positive thing for us. But we anticipate right now that this will get us through the remainder of this school year and into the next few school years, unless we have a potential growth in our enrollment. We've already seen an enrollment growth in the first grade from 8 classes to 9 classes, so this is, again, a reason why we're reaching out for the purchase, and so we're hoping that it'll make a big difference for our students in their learning and education.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve the purchase of Chromebooks.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments?
Just a quick question. I've had a parent ask me, and I didn't know the answer. What is the usual lifespan of a Chromebook? Is it can they be upgraded within a 4-year, 5-year time frame, or how does that work?
The normal time frame of a Chromebook is about 4 years, and that is per Google. Google has auto updates, and their time frame to allow for auto updates is about 4 years. They sometimes extend it by a year, but it's really 4 years is what we calculate on. And what that is that if that auto update can't be enabled for state assessment of a certain OS operating system, then we can't use that machine for testing purposes. So it's all based on the operating system version that we are allowed to have on a machine for testing. So if, say, the OS version is 95 by state assessment rules, and the machine is at 92, and the auto update is expired, we can't update it to 95 and be compliant for testing. So it's a 4-year cycle for Chromebooks per auto update from Google.
So every school corporation using Chromebooks is in the same dilemma.
It is the
we
same
have
for
affordable, and it's all dictated by Google then?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
It's hard, but yes, that is
Okay.
one thing that's really difficult for us when it's dictated by the manufacturer.
And what the staff has, the Dell Attitude, they have the ability to be upgraded because of the type of computer they were.
Correct.
Okay.
Microsoft is a little bit different on their auto updates. They can extend the life past the end of life series. So like if everybody's familiar with Windows 7, and Windows 7 expired about 2 years ago, it's still usable, but it doesn't receive any security updates. So for us, it's a risk factor we don't want to have here. So that's why we've updated to Windows 10. Our license has already let us roll to Windows 10. But in this scenario, Google does not allow you to update that way.
Okay. All
But
right.
yes, our teachers' laptops will get us past 4 to 5 years, just depending on what the Microsoft and Google do to us.
Okay. All right. Thank you for educating me.
It's a complicated
Yeah,
world, and it's
yes,
getting
it
more and more
is.
complicated as we go on. So Windows 13 or Windows 12 is going to be a challenge. So we're going to keep our eyes on that one right now.
Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rowden. Next, we have the Contingency Learning and Safety Plan Report, an informational update. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, let me just start by just saying to our parents who come and make the public comments, and the parents that I hear from in emails, and those who come and actually meet with me in person. We've been at this for a year and a half, and I've always appreciated our parents, no matter what opinion they might have, whether we agreed or disagreed. I haven't had one conversation really where the conversation wasn't a respectful exchange of ideas and opinions. And every board meeting that we've had since COVID started, our parents have come and made very respectful comments, and I just appreciate that. This is one of those issues that there's just several different ways that different individuals look at the situation. And believe me, over the last year and a half, as I've mentioned, when we don't want to think about last year, but when we do, we know that there were, for every decision that we've made, there always seemed to be an equal number of people for and against whatever that decision might be. But it's always very helpful for me as superintendent to hear those comments and hear from our parents. So with our safety plan that we currently have, from day one, our goal for the 21-22 school year was to keep students in school and maintain that in-person 5-day-a-week schedule. And so everything that we're doing in order to keep as many students and staff in school as possible. And I think we've been able to do that this year. So to achieve this goal and to keep working at this goal of staying in this 5-day-a-week schedule and keeping this in-person 5-day-a-week schedule, we are going to continue with our current safety plan. We're going to continue with the cleaning that's part of our plan, and the daily cleaning that we have going on, the safety measures that we're implementing throughout each of our schools, the fact that we're taking safety measures to limit visitors, and that we're implementing social distancing strategies, that we're monitoring and working with our parents to monitor the symptoms the students might have, and our contact tracing that we're doing. We are going to continue with the requirement of masks in our schools. We have to remember that Monroe County, that we're under a mask order. And so we are going to continue to follow that mask order. We're going to continue to align our safety plan with the guidelines that schools in the state of Indiana receive from the State Department of Health. As I have mentioned already, when we go back a year and a half, and as from my chair and hearing many different opinions on what we should or shouldn't do, I started, and the board has worked with me from day one, that we've used the State Department of Health and our local Monroe County Health Department as our true north, because I've received many different studies and research coming from different angles. And so early on, I determined, at least for myself, I was going to use our health experts at the state and our county to guide us in our decision making. And I think that's served us well over the last year and a half. So we're going to continue to monitor the situation. As we receive different orders from our governor, we will factor that into our decision making. We will continue to factor in the health department guidance and the legal advice that we receive from our corporation attorneys. And we're going to continue to monitor the data. And as we move forward, we will continue to use all of this information to guide us in our next step. The governor's order did give schools the option to not quarantine students within the classroom if everybody had a mask on. And that may be something that we might consider if the situation was to improve enough that would warrant taking that step. Hopefully down the road, the situation with COVID-19 will improve and the color of our county will move to blue. You know, right now it's orange. And most of the state is, I think, except for one county, is either orange or red. So as it moves to blue, then I think our county will be considering to maybe do something different with the mask mandate. And we would follow suit with that. And so this is something that we hope and pray every day gets better. And we will adjust our plan accordingly. I have shared with you some data from today. And believe me, it changes by the minute. So as I created this report today, I was changing these numbers all day long in terms of the number of students we have quarantined and also looking at the number of students who've tested positive. And so over the weekend, we did have 2 positive cases at our preschool. And so we have quarantined the 3-year-old classroom. And that's why you see a higher percentage for the primary school. Up until these 2 cases, they've been at 0%. Okay. EPS right now, we have 8.65% of our students quarantined as of today. At EIS, it's 3.5%, 3.56%. At the junior high, it's 7.82%. At the high school, which since Labor Day, we have had an increased number of cases. We have right now 12.38%. But that's a good example of that we did have 2 positive cases at the high school. So where the number did start this morning going down because we were bringing some students back, it went back up because of the additional positive cases. So across the corporation, as of today, we had 9.3 students who are quarantined as of today. The percentage of students who tested positive in the last 10 days, so I went back 10 days in order for us to show that we're tracking to see if there's any kind of a spread. That is a big determining factor if we have to go to e-learning for a particular class. Like a few weeks ago, we went to e-learning for a 2nd grade class. All those students are back. So whereas last year we went to a schedule as a corporation, this year we're trying to be more precise and look at the data and just focus on where we might have a couple positive cases in a classroom or maybe an increased number school-wide. So over the last 10 days, 2.1% of our students at the or at the preschool tested positive. That's 2 students. 0.15% at EPS, 0% over the last 10 days at EIS, so they haven't had any cases the last 10 days. At the junior high, 0.93%, and at the high school, 2.4% in the last 10 days. For the corporation is 1.1%. So with COVID-19, it's just not a black and white situation. It's something that is complicated, and every situation is different. And the result of that is sometimes we may look awkward in the decisions that we make. It might look like, well, this isn't consistent, this isn't fair. to other cases, other situations. But we take each situation individually. And it really comes down to when you do the contact tracing and you identify the close contacts, that determines really what your situation is. When you look at the situation and because we look at and we have conversations, we look at everything, and we determine whether or not there was a spread within a classroom or spread on a team, and where did the exposures happen. And we use all that information and we have conversations and we make those decisions. The football team situation, it did appear awkward, but the actual scenario that played out was that we received a report of a positive case on Thursday. And our main concern is we want to make sure that if there are positive cases that we try to send those students home so they're not exposing somebody else. And so in this situation, we had the positive case. The first look at the situation, we were not sure whether we could determine the close contacts. But we have a football coach who is also a math teacher who is very data-driven, very organized, and he had a very specific practice schedule. And after reviewing the practice schedule and looking at his notes for practice and having a conversation with Mr. Ackerman, who's very good at the contact tracing, we were able to identify those close contacts. The first step, the conversation for the first 2 hours that we met was about how can we get, if we know these are the close contacts, can we get these students back in school? Mr. Kerr?
I'm sorry, the public comment time is over.
I just don't understand.
I'm sorry, you cannot interrupt our meeting.
I'll be glad to meet with you afterwards, or I've already offered we can meet.
We've done that. We'll meet again.
Okay. So my point I'm getting at is that we try very hard to review each situation, and each situation is different. And we're all about trying to do what's best for the kids, what's best overall for our student body and our staff. And that's what we're going to continue to do. And I know we'll have disagreements, but we're going to persevere and work together as a community.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. Now we have the consideration to create the position of bus mechanic. Mr. Irwin.
We were asking to create and hire the position of mechanic. This is going to be a year-round position that's salaried with full benefits. It's a position that will focus first on our school buses. We are also going to make sure that that person is also a licensed school bus driver to make sure that in the event that we did have a need for a driver that day, that they'd be able to step in and assist. We'd also require that person to be able to work on all other corporation-owned vehicles to do repair and maintenance work. And then we would also have them be able to help out the maintenance team as well. This position is not going to fail to have work to do. There's quite a bit to do with this, and one of the other things that it can help to do is it's going to pay for itself through the relief of paying for outside services when we have to send our buses to get worked on. It kind of fits into the plan that we've kind of been working towards, is that we're trying to find ways to be more efficient with our dollars, be able to bring things in-house that we can control those costs a little bit, and then we have a person that we know and trust that's working on those buses all the time. It just continues to go along with the plan of the additions that we're doing to the transportation and maintenance facility with the extra bays, with the idea of bringing in a bus mechanic that would be able to work on our corporation vehicles. And so we're excited about the opportunity to bring somebody in to be able to do this. I think this has been something we've been looking at for a period of time, and so we're excited to move along with this. Just in 2018, we spent over $87,000 on repair costs for buses. In 2019 and 2020, obviously you get into some of the COVID-ness of some of our years, it was $72,000 and almost $50,000. So we spend quite a bit of money when it comes to repair of our buses, and this position is going to allow us to make sure that we can, A, have our own timeline. We know that our buses are going to come first, and so that we don't have to wait on repairs, or might have to, as far as how we look at different things that are going places, sometimes you have to wait longer to get the service. We know that our buses are going to come first. We're going to have somebody that we know and trust to continue to work on our buses and make sure that our fleet's taken care of. And so I ask that we create this position so that we can then hire the position.
A motion.
I move that we create a position of transportation mechanic.
I'll second.
Okay, questions?
I do have a few questions, Mr. Irwin. So this position is going to pay for itself because of all the repair costs we've had in the past, is our theory?
Yeah, and so we looked at those numbers, like the numbers that I just gave you about some of the repair costs that we've paid for already in the past, and so the mechanic would be able to cover the repairs, maintenance, different things like that wouldn't be covered by warranty work for buses that are under warranty. Just like when you have a car, certain things aren't covered by the warranty, so we would need a mechanic to be able to work on those, to work on our buses, our corporation vehicles, mowers, it could be dump truck, it could be whatever it is. And so we would have that person in-house to take care of those needs.
And then once the new work area is ready, that's going to be around March of 2022. They'll have an actual bay, is that correct?
So we'll have a bay.
Specific bay for repairs. Right now, we don't have that, right?
Yeah, we have one bay that we can get a bus into that they can work on. Right now, they'll be able to also work on them outside. A lot of the mechanics already work on them outside, but with the additions that we're putting onto the transportation maintenance facility, we'll be able to get more of our vehicles in and through to expedite that process and just make that a little bit easier for our mechanic to get in there, work on those buses, get things done, and kind of get them pulled through.
And then also the intent is they can work on our maintenance equipment as well?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thanks.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Dr. Sanders, have any miscellaneous items today?
Yes, I do. I'd like to recognize the Edgewood Marching Mustangs for two reasons. One is they earned a first place rating at Brownsburg in their first competition of the year. They won Best General Effect, Best Percussion, Best Music, and Best Visual. And they are also the only band, and I see this as a real positive, they're the only band that implemented safety measures. And so they had their masks on until the whole time until they came out to perform. So they came out and got into place, and then they took their mask down, performed, and as they were finished walking off, they put their masks back on. And I told Mr. Wells that I was very proud of them for being a good example.
Okay. Now we'll move on to your superintendent's report.
So it occurred to me recently that I'm sending out almost daily these COVID updates. And it occurred to me that there is a lot more going on in our Edgewood schools other than things related to COVID. And so I just wanted to start off just briefly, just recognizing the fact that people make a difference. And that even though we have all these safety measures that we're implementing and we're having to wear masks and nobody likes to do that, that we have very dedicated people pouring into our students. And I really wanted to make a list from bus drivers to food service, and the list just went on and on and on. So I just thought I would point out three. First, our Title I staff. So Title I is a federally funded program that provides reading intervention for our elementary students. So we have a Title I staff at EPS is led by Kelly Faust, and at the intermediate school, the Title I staff is led by Rebecca Pittman, and we have instructional assistants at both schools. And so for the first part of every school year, they're assessing the students and determining what their academic needs are. And just this week now, they started meeting in small groups and individually and providing support to our classroom teachers for reading instruction. And as we all know, reading is just at the foundation of everything else. So this is a very important program. Our Title I staff, I don't know if we can find anyone else who is as talented and dedicated as they are. And when I was thinking about some of our staff who are pouring into our students, Title I came to mind. Secondly, I had the pleasure last Friday of going up to the junior high and meeting with their media productions class, and viewing and taking a little short tour. It's not a very big room, but it looks very professional, their media production room. And I mentioned Ready Schools early on, and we had the year of planning for Ready Schools. And so we visited schools from Tennessee to Wisconsin and saw some very exceptional programs, with which each really successful program that was a model for other schools across the country. There was an individual, a teacher, somebody who was passionate about that program. And Rebecca Guest-Scott is the person I'd like to recognize as a teacher who is pouring in to our students. She did an amazing job last year with our virtual school for the junior high. And now that she's back at school and she's helping to lead this media productions class, she's had Rob Ramsey from Smithfield come in and talk to the students about camera work and the basics of the camera and sound and lighting. And she's had Krista Curtis from Cook Medical to talk to them about developing a brand. And so I've asked Mrs. Guest-Scott to come back. She's going to come back at a future board meeting. It's not going to be a Mustang moment because the junior high just had their turn. So she's going to come back another time and show us their tagline and their logo that they've zeroed in on and share about the program. So I wanted to give you a kind of a commercial about that. And then finally, pretty much anybody who's related and participates either on the committee or in running or walking or sponsoring our Dollars for Scholars program. That happened a couple of Saturdays ago on October 11th, and we had 79 participants. Now, 2 years ago, I walked, but I came in dead last walking, so I decided maybe I would just be a cheerleader this year, and I had a lot more fun doing that. But we had 79 participants and raised over $16,000 that will go to scholarships for Edgewood High School students. So I just want to thank the participants and the sponsors especially for donating to that cause. And then I thought I'd just give you, I usually give a regular update on our construction projects. The junior high project is just about finished. We should have that finished in the next few weeks. We've recently been taking really a deeper look and seeing what's going on with some of the issues that we're having with our audio projection system. And so we had, I think, a really productive meeting on that, and I think we're on the right course with that. And Rick Routen's been helping us a lot with that. We're waiting on appliances like appliances, like so many other things, are delayed. And so for the fax room, we're waiting on appliances, and we're just working our way through the punch list. For our Innovative Learning Center, which is here at the high school, the completion date is December. I didn't give an exact date, but sometime in December, they should be finished with the Innovative Learning Center. Right now they're finishing drywall, ductwork, electrical rough-ins, and waiting on the mechanical units to be delivered and installed. Finally, things are starting to really roll at the preschool. We're targeting end of December. Our goal to get the preschool into their new home by the first of the year. They're finishing interior block and setting roof steel this week. The new administration building, I think we've talked about the permit issues we've had with that, but all that's been taken care of. And as soon as we can have some nice days this week, they'll begin working on working on the foundation. In fact, last Friday they were starting to prepare that so they could get to work on the foundation. The pool project is nearing completion also. They're getting ready to install the bulkhead, starting blocks, and the diving boards. We're waiting on cabinet heaters for the locker rooms, and we're estimating filling the pool September 28th, and we should be developing the punch list in the next day or two. And then finally, our HVAC projects, we're looking to have those, that project completed in November. Over fall break, they will finish installing and setting up the auditorium and classroom units, and then after fall break, they'll spend about 2 weeks making sure they're running the right way, and so that should be all finished by the start of November. We meet on one of the projects every Tuesday morning is basically our meeting time for our construction projects. That's a time for our principals, directors, Matt and I, Rick, and others who meet with the contractors and the architect to go over what has happened in the previous 2 weeks and what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. And it's really a valuable time to make sure that we call them loose ends, that we're tying up loose ends and we're moving forward.
Thank you. We have RBBEA comments, our teacher association, and we have Mr. Yules here tonight.
Good evening. Just a couple things. The Mustang moment reminded me of with Mr. Lalazizi's class that, yeah, world's complicated, that's for sure, but sometimes you can just keep it simple and just help people when they need help. So that was really nice to see. It's great to hear. So I'm glad they came forward and did that. With everything going on, the unknown always stresses everybody out. I want to say I'm a math teacher, so, and there's nothing better than being live in person to teach your kids. That's how they learn the best. No doubt about that. But having said that, I do appreciate the technology we do have, so thank you for funding that. So when we do have kids out, whether it's COVID related, or I'll even go back less than 10 years from now when we just, kids are out for 3 or 4 or 5 days, what did they do till they got back? Probably not a whole lot. But when they are out, for whatever the reason, it's nice to have options, whether it's Prism, whether it's Google Classroom. So appreciate Rick's help, your help, and even all the experts like Megan Scott and all our tech coordinators, our helpful teachers to help us. So I'm not the most tech savvy. I can do enough if they show me like that, and it at least helps us communicate with the kids. They can see things online. And I'll tell you by personal experience, I'm taking an online math course this semester, and I don't wish that on anybody. It's not the easiest thing to do. That's my choice, of course, but when it's not their choice, I do appreciate all the help that you've lent to us so that we can use it to help our kids when we do need it, and hopefully it's a temporary thing as always. And as I said, we'll always get through this. So thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Yules. For board member comments, we'll start with Mr. Tucker.
Thanks, Mr. Yules. I thought you said prison. I didn't hear the say prism. I thought you said, what is he talking about? Yeah, okay, all right. So, hey, I'd like to thank Ms. Edwards, Ms. Strunks tonight for their comments, and continue to share your thoughts. And I know Dr. Sanders and Mr. Kerr have responded to a lot of your emails, and we'll continue to do so. So I appreciate that. And thank you to Mr. Kerr for responding to multiple emails from parents as well. I want to thank our donations tonight. We always appreciate donations. That was a very nice donation from the ECC. And again, hats off, as Dr. Sanders said, to all the people that volunteered for the Dollars for Scholars Walk last Saturday. That was, or 2 Saturdays ago. It was postponed in 2020. And this year, everything was done outside. It was really turned out to be a nice day, and everybody was spread out. So I appreciate people coming out and participating. Congrats to the new hires tonight. I mean, I look at that long list of people, and a lot of instructional aides and coaches. And when I look at all those coaches, I think about how much time they put in. And I don't even want to calculate their hourly rate, because it just doesn't work out that way. They do it because they love what they're doing. So thank you to all of them. Thanks to Rick Routon for letting me pester him the last 2.5 years. Since he started, he's done a great job of getting us back to a really strong technology system here within the school corporation. And I'm stunned sometimes at the cost of stuff, and I do appreciate you guiding me through that. But it does keep us connected to the world, so thank you for that. And to Dr. Sanders, thanks for the notes with COVID tonight. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but the first thing you did mention was we want to keep them in the classroom. And I truly, that's one thing I am in agreement on. Let's keep them in the classroom. I have had multiple parents that just say they're praying that we don't have to go back to a hybrid schedule like we did last year. And whatever means that may be. And I know as the positive numbers trend downward, hopefully we can take a look at possibly minimizing the quarantines, at least within the classroom. And I know ECA is another animal we have to cover differently. So, but thanks for doing the best you can, and thanks to all the parents and the kids for being patient with each other. So, thanks.
Mr. DeMoss?
Echoing a lot of what Brad just said, and the Ellisville Christian Church appreciate the donation. Ms. Jalal Azizi and her class, I'm so appreciative of them getting such a timely and thoughtful project going. My wife was telling me about what they were up to, and just the kids really, when they heard what their teacher was doing, they got really excited about it, and so they've followed along with it. Congratulations to the band. I hadn't heard that, and my son, who had been a drum major many years ago now, and he also noticed the pictures of all the soccer players, the seniors, hanging on the side of the soccer field over the weekend. He was down from Chicago, and just the numbers really impressed him, and I'm hoping that we can continue supporting the program despite the difficulties we've had in the last couple of weeks. Also, Dollars for Scholars, I did participate. I got a medal. It was kind of a participation trophy, I think, but I did finish. So, and I also got paid to spend some time at the intermediate school for their color run. The second time I've done that, I got to spread green powder on 600 elementary kids, and the highlight of the day for me was I was at the very beginning of the run, and one young man who was coming toward the finish line, he saw me stepping out, and he said, "Oh no, it's the Green Monsters." So I felt like I I made an impression at least. So thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. I know the COVID protocols are very difficult for many people. Again, it's situation by situation, so sometimes it may look like things aren't fair, but it's because there are differences in the situation that we find ourselves in. Last time we had this number of cases in the community of COVID, last time we had this much of hospitalizations going on, we were going to e-learning. As I mentioned in previous meetings, what we found out last year is that the protocols we put in place work. And so therefore, our goal is to keep in-person learning going as much as possible. And we've been able to do that. And part of what worked last year was the quarantining. And I know that's a touchy subject. There's people that are on both sides of the fence of that, though. I mean, the experts are on different sides of the fence on that too, as well as the vaccinations, who's vaccinated, who's not, and what that should allow them and what not. And I know even on specific details, even the board, has different thoughts a lot of times on what would be best specifically in this for this item or that. But Dr. Sanders has been doing a very good job of looking at all of the resources available to him in order to make a proposed plan and a plan that we're currently sticking with. And again, it worked before. Last year we would be in e-learning at this time. We're not. We're in the classroom. We're keeping things going as best we can. Yes, there are times students are quarantined, and that is difficult on them, when, as I say, they're not sick, they're home, but the potential for spread. We have had very little, I believe almost none, transmission at school, and that's because of the protocols that we have in place. So it is difficult. I know that many parents are passionate on all sides of that issue, and we appreciate that, and we do listen. We do read through your emails. I do try to respond to them as much as I can as well. It may take me a week sometimes, but generally I do get a response out. So if anybody's missing a response, let me know, because I must have not got it. Besides COVID, there's a lot of wonderful things going on at Edgewood. Our construction projects are moving along, making our facilities better, giving us more opportunities for our students to learn in different ways. The Innovative Learning Center, with Ready Schools is an excellent example of that. So we're moving forward, plus we're moving forward on the basics, the HVAC and things like that, our pool was put in the 80s, and it was time to fix it, give it some new life so it can last longer. So we got a lot of good projects going on. We've got a lot of wonderful community partners. Ellisville Christian Church, their donation for not only COVID, but could also be used for the food truck. So that's awesome. So proud of the food truck and the program that we have, where we make sure our students have foods, whether it's on breaks or if we have e-learning days, whatever the case may be. We try to make sure our students have nutritious meals. We're proud of that. And mostly tonight, it was the intermediate school coming and giving their presentation. That is so uplifting to see how much work they put into these projects. and to be able to come up here and explain it to the board, what they've been doing, how it's working, what their hopes are with their project. It's just awesome. And they were all very eloquent speakers. Public speaking, I didn't do much of that until I got into college. I had one class on it, so it's difficult. But that's one of the things a lot of the employers were looking for is students that are employees that can speak in public, that can work collaboratively, and that was exactly what our intermediate students were doing. They worked collaboratively on this project, and they were able to present it in a concise and professional way. And so it's exciting to see that kind of work going on. And so I hope that when you look at Edgewood, you look at all the wonderful things that are going on too. We pray that COVID will be over soon. We pray that this spike drops as quickly as possible. And as it does, I said we would love to open things up more, to put some of our protocols to rest and maybe cut down on quarantines and things like that, so we can have more kids in the classroom that way as well. And we just hope and pray that will happen soon. So again, we thank you for coming tonight. We thank you for speaking tonight. And you all have a wonderful evening, and this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.